Good morning. Welcome to First Church Unitarian here in Littleton, Massachusetts. My name is Lara Hoke, pronouns she, her, and I'm happy and so lucky to be the minister serving this incredible congregation. Clap for yourselves. You guys are the best. What a fair we had yesterday. That was amazing. I'm sure we'll hear more about it. But thank you all, as always, for coming out to support that. I love it too. So today is multi-platform, so welcome to those of you here with us in the sanctuary, and as always, also welcome to those of you who are with us online. It's wonderful to have you all with us today, and our service is always better here because of your presence, whether you're here in the sanctuary or whether you're with us on Zoom or YouTube. Great to have you with us. Today, we are thinking about the Jewish holiday of Sukkot. We just got through the Jewish High Holy Days, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur, the holiest Jewish holiday. But coming right after that is Sukkot, somewhat lesser known to most of us. So we'll think about that together today. If you are seeking some pastoral care, someone to talk to, you could always reach out to me, or you could reach out to one of our wonderful lay pastoral ministers. Today's lay pastoral minister is Patty Sardella, and our other pastoral ministers are Ann Donald, Jan Dustin, and Linda Kaler. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob for Community Matters.
Yes, my name is Bob Williams, and I have the pleasure of serving this community as a member of the Standing Committee, the Building Committee, a worship associate. I think I'm also was a co-chair, I guess I was a semi-co-chair of the fair that we just experienced. Was that awesome? Awesome, yeah. So, well, good morning for me as well, and welcome to First Church Unitarian Littleton. I want to draw your attention to community matters. Nobody came up to me and said, "You've got to say this, you've got to." So you know, like, there's all sorts of good things in here. We're a vibrant community. Just take a look at it and see how you can be part of it and join in, because there's great things. There's a circle dance. There's a jam band, musical. There's there's a Vietnam nurse speaking at the Women's Alliance meeting. So again, I encourage you to take a gander at that. So we're going to, you know the drill. Please, and I forget it sometimes too. Just shut off the cell phones. I'd also like to remind everybody who's here that there's coffee through here, and after we get done worshiping, you can go wake up. I see a yawn on Wendy. She needs it right now, but after that, we're going to have fellowship, and it's through these doors. Watch your step, watch other people, and be cognizant of that. First, we're going to read, we're going to put on Ann Donald, our clerk, to read the warrant for the upcoming congregational meeting. Jack?
Hi, I'm Ann Donald, your clerk. First, the voting list is now available on our website as well as posted at the church. I am notifying you, the members of First Church Unitarian, lawfully entitled to vote in its affairs, to meet in person in the sanctuary or on a Zoom call. The link will be provided after church services on October 19 at 11:30 a.m. following the Sunday service, and a brief social time to act on the following articles. First, to review and accept the minutes from the May 18, 2025 warranted meeting. Second, to consider the disposition of the fiscal year 2025 operating surplus of $45,558. Third, to transact any other business that may lawfully come before said meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Okay. Welcome everybody to church.
This is the season of building tents of holiness, shelters of peace in our land and in our hearts. This is the season of building tabernacles of joy and gladness in our moments and in our days, in our homes and in our lives. This is the season that summons jubilation and exultation as we yearn for the great promise to be fulfilled, a world of harmony and love under one great Sukkah, a sanctuary of wonder and awe for all nations and all peoples. The words of Alden Solovy, let us worship. I'd like to invite Natalie to come up and light our chalice this morning. And as Natalie lights the chalice, please join me in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. Our opening hymn is number 214 in the gray hymnal, Shabbat Shalom. The words will be on the screen, but spoiler alert, the lyrics are Shabbat Shalom. So I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Be seated. Shabbat Shalom. So we're going to hear a few Hebrew words today. Does anyone know what Shabbat Shalom means? Yes, Sabbath peace. So the next question is, what's a Sukkah? Does anyone know? Do you know? You ever heard of it before? Well, you might guess that it has something to do with Sukkot, right? Sounds familiar. Yes, correct. It's a shelter that people build to eat their meals under. It's a temporary dwelling, and it is commanded to observant Jews that they do this, that they build these sukkahs, these temporary dwellings, to remember what it was like to wander in the wilderness for 40 years. Or wander in the desert for 40 years, because you would have had to make temporary shelters as you went. But there are lots of interesting rules for exactly what constitutes a kosher sukkah. So, one interesting rule, the minimum size that it can be is an area of 27 inches by 27 inches, which is what Thea is standing in, those blue lines. And the minimum height is 32 inches, which is right here. Sit up, Thea. Let's see if you... Yeah, Thea would have to duck. Thea would have to duck, because that's it. Yeah. So, yeah, that's right. As a sukkah for one, in a pinch. So that's the smallest it could be and count as kosher. Other rules are it has to have 3 walls, at least 3 walls, and the fourth could be either open or sort of a wall with a door in it. Okay? The walls could be made out of almost anything, It has to be strong enough to withstand sort of a normal wind. It's not expected to withstand like a torrential storm because that's sort of the point, is that it's fragile. But the walls could be wood, they could be canvas or some other sturdy cloth, almost anything. What's interesting is, the most interesting part to me is the roof, or the, I hope I'm saying this right, skach. Is that right? It's close enough? Skach. So, yeah, it's a great one. And the roof has to be made out of organic materials. It has to be things that grew from the ground. So it could be tree branches, it could be bamboo, it could be branches with leaves on them, but stuff like that, twigs, whatever you can make work. And the roof has to provide more shade than light, right? So you're supposed to be mostly shaded. But it can't be too perfect, because another thing is the sukkah has to be built under the open sky. It can't be right under a tree. It can't be right under another structure. It has to be built under the open sky, and you have to be able to look up through it and see, like at night. If it's a clear night, you're supposed to be able to look through it and see the stars. That's a rule. So those are kind of the basic obligations. If we could look at the next slide. This has been happening a long, long time. It's an old example of a very basic but big sukkah. Next. This is in Israel, and the wooden structures that you see there on the ground, those are sukkahs. Next. This is cool to me. This is in Israel. People who live in apartments there, very observant Jews, they have no land to build their sukkah. So look, they managed to make these sukkahs that stand out from the building so that they're open to the sky. Isn't that incredible? I love that. That's serious. That's a mitzvah right there. All right, next. Aha, guess what? We built a sukkah. Yeah, that's right. Thea and I on Friday with a little help, but mostly we did it. Next slide, you see Thea there with the frame. And there, we needed a couple of tall helpers. There you'll see our very own Bob Williams helping us to attach the walls at the top, because our sukkah is 4 feet by 4 feet by 8 feet tall. Okay, next. Thea had the honor of attaching the floor. I technically could have done it, but I wasn't sure I'd get up again. Next. Look how proud we are of ourselves. Yeah. I know. You know, the brand of sukkah that we got is called Easy Sukkah. It was sold by Sukkah Man out of Passaic, New Jersey. He sends your sukkah kit in a very timely way, so if you need one quickly, he's a good go-to person. It wasn't that easy, though. All right, next. Okay, so there it is, all complete and cute with windows and a door. But you see the picture there with the blue sky? That's looking up through the top of it, because guess what? There's one thing left to make it kosher. It needs a skach. It needs a roof. Yeah. So your challenge today, should you accept it with Thea and any other helpers, is to build a roof of organic materials. Yeah. And after the service, we might need another tall helper to get it up on top. So if anyone wants to check it out, it's in the Memorial Garden right over there, and a tall helper or two can help put the roof on. Also, your challenge, should you accept it, is to decorate it, which isn't officially required, but it's an extra mitzvah. It's an extra mitzvot, I should say, to do that, to decorate it. So we have some decorations, and you can make some more, and that will be awesome. Some people have said that a sukkah is a mitzvot that you can be inside of, which I think is pretty cool. So Sukkot starts officially tomorrow at sundown, and it lasts for a week. So if you drive around, pay attention, you might see some sukkahs out there, and you might want to check out our own. All right, thanks for listening, and have fun. All right. just had to correct myself before the offering. I'm sorry, I think I'm delirious still from making the sukkah. Mitzvah is singular, mitzvot is plural. I don't know how I got that confused. Apologies.
Each week we take a free will offering from those at our service. Some of you might wonder why you are being asked to put a relatively small amount into the plate on a Sunday when perhaps you've already pledged a bigger amount or worked your butts off yesterday in the fair. One reason is that every dollar helps, as you know, but there's another reason to consider. Today we are thinking about Judaism and some Jewish traditions. Jewish tradition teaches that it is better to give many smaller sums than one large one. Why? Because by giving many smaller sums, you get used to giving. When you give regularly, you become more generous. Thank you for sharing generously of your time and talent to support our ministries. Now, if you're able, we ask that you share some of your treasure to support our ministries too. For those in the sanctuary, please put any cash or checks into the plates as they come around. For virtual participants, you can go to our website, fculittle.org, and look for the yellow donate button. There you will see details of how to donate online. You could also send a check to the church through the mail to the attention of the Assistant Treasurer. Thank you for your generosity. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation. Please join me in the words of our community response. May we be transformed by our giving, and may the world be transformed by our gifts.
Many weeks we have a special time that we call the Candles of Caring. This is an opportunity to share the joys, concerns, and sorrows that are dearest to you this morning with this gathered beloved community. If you're here in the sanctuary and if you're able, we ask that you come up front and use the microphone and say your name and briefly let us know how we might direct our thoughts, prayers, and healing wishes. We will also have a chance to bring the microphone to you where you sit if you wish. And for those of you who are with us on Zoom, you can raise the hand in the reactions area and we'll call on you in turn. And for everyone, we will light a candle up front. Are there candles of caring this morning? Okay. Are there any candles from Zoom? Oh, okay. Then I'd like to ask Jim to light the remaining candles to remind us of all the joys, concerns, and sorrows that are with us this morning, but that remain unspoken. Please join with me now in the spirit of meditation or prayer. Once again, we have come together in love and trust, sharing those cares dearest to us with this gathered beloved community. Let us hold in our thoughts and our prayers all those joys, concerns, and sorrows that were spoken aloud this morning, as well as those that remain unspoken, as we share together in a time of sacred silence. Amen, and blessed be. This morning, I have a reading that is excerpts from the book of Ecclesiastes in the Hebrew Bible. Ecclesiastes is the Greek or Latin translation of the Hebrew kolet, which is usually translated as teacher or preacher, but it actually means gatherer. Because another thing about Sukkot is it's a harvest holiday. Ecclesiastes is considered a wisdom book, and it's relatively new for books in the Hebrew Bible, going back to 250 BC. So it's still 2,275 years old, approximately. And you will hear a few familiar phrases that you've probably been saying most of your life. So here it begins. Pointless, pointless, says Colette. Utterly meaningless. Nothing matters. What does a person gain from all his labor at which he toils under the sun? Everything is wearisome, more than one can express. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, the ear not filled up with hearing. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there something of which it is said, see, this is new? It existed already in the ages before us. I have wisely applied myself to seek out and investigate everything done under heaven. What a bothersome task God has given humanity to keep us occupied. I have seen all the activities that are done under the sun, and it's all pointless. Feeding on the wind. I searched to find out what was the best thing for people to do during the short time that they have under heaven to live. I worked on the grand scale. I built myself palaces. I planted myself vineyards. I made myself gardens and parks. In them, I planted all kinds of fruit trees. I amassed silver and gold. I acquired things that provide sensual delight. I denied my eyes nothing they wanted. Then I looked at all that my hands had accomplished and at all the work I had toiled at, and I saw that it was all meaningless, feeding on the wind, and that there was nothing to be gained under the sun. So I decided to look more carefully at wisdom, stupidity, and foolishness. I saw that wisdom is more useful than foolishness, just as light is more useful than darkness. The wise man has eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet the same fate awaits them both. So I came to hate life, because the activities done under the sun were loathsome to me, since everything is meaningless and feeding on the wind. So there is nothing better for a man to do than to eat, drink, and be merry. For everything there is a season, a right time for every intention under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. Concerning people, I said to myself, God is testing them so that they will see that by themselves they are just animals. After all, the same things that happen to animals happen to people, the very same things. Just as one dies, so does the other. Yes, their breath is the same, so that humans are no better than animals, since nothing matters anyway. They all go to the same place, they all come from dust, and they all return to dust. So I concluded that there is nothing better for a person to do than to take joy in his activities. When things are going well, enjoy yourself. But when things are going badly, consider that God made one alongside the other. In my pointless life, I've seen everything, from the righteous person perishing in his uprightness to the wicked one who lives a long life and keeps on doing wrong. So don't be overly righteous or overly wise. Why should you disappoint yourself? But don't be overly wicked, and don't be foolish. Why should you die before your time? There isn't a righteous person on earth who does only good and never sins. Enjoy life with the wife you have loved throughout your meaningless life. All the days of your futility. For that is your allotted portion in life. Pointless. meaningless. Nothing matters at all. Here is the final conclusion, now that you have heard everything. Fear God and keep his mitzvot. This is what being human is all about. Here ends the reading. Sukkot, the Jewish holiday of Sukkot, begins tomorrow at sundown and lasts for a week until Monday, the 13th of October at sundown. Sukkot, or the Hebrew, is the Hebrew word, or in Yiddish you'll hear Sukkos. Sometimes the holiday is known as the Festival of Booths, sometimes it's called Tabernacles, and all the names come from that same idea, Sukkot coming from Sukkah, a temporary dwelling, as we talked about during the time for all ages. Jewish holidays typically ask the members of the faith to relive something important from Jewish history. In Sukkot, Jews are asked to relive, symbolically of course, 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, the 40 years that come after the liberation from slavery in Egypt, and the reality that they would have been living in those temporary structures, surely, during that time. So with a holiday like Passover, Jews are symbolically reliving a very time-specific event from the Bible, the events that led up to the freedom from slavery of the Jewish people in Egypt, things that would have happened over the course of about a week with the plagues and so on. And with a holiday like Hanukkah, there's a symbolic reliving of another very time-specific event from the non-canonical book of Maccabees, which talks about the temple oil lasting for 8 nights, which was a miracle. So again, that length of roughly a week. But with Sukkot, you're talking about such a long event, 40 years, 14,000 days. So the scale of what you're reliving is very different. You might wonder, if you're a literal thinker, why Sukkot doesn't follow somewhat closely after Passover, right? Because Passover is about the liberation from Egypt, and then Sukkot is about the wandering in the desert that happens after that. But because Sukkot is talking about a 40-year event, you can't pick one day from an annual calendar. So the date chosen for Sukkot each year corresponds more with the harvest season. Observant Jews go to the synagogue during the Sabbath of Sukkot, so that would be this coming Friday and Saturday. And there they would hear a reading of the entire book of Ecclesiastes. Now, you heard just some excerpts from it. It's true that it's one of the shorter books in the Hebrew Scriptures, but still, reading the whole thing takes a long time. The book of Ecclesiastes, one of my favorite scriptures, actually. It always blows me away. So as I said, it was written in about 250 BC, about 2,300 years ago. But it sounds in some ways so modern to me. It sort of gives me the chills to think about some ancient person sitting there and writing this down. It sounds to my ears almost like an ancient blog post rant. But you might wonder, why is it the tradition to read the book of Ecclesiastes for Sukkot? Ecclesiastes doesn't have anything to do with the harvest. Not really. It doesn't have anything to do with the 40 years of wandering in the desert or the wilderness. So there's lots of debate about why Ecclesiastes is read for Sukkot in the Talmud by the rabbis. And there's no one precise answer, but the main connection I see is that the teacher, Colette, the author, keeps saying, when life is good, enjoy it. Eat, drink, and be merry. Take life as it comes. Enjoy what's good while you can. And certainly you're forced to take life as it comes if you're wandering in the wilderness. And for Sukkot, though you're in a temporary, sort of fragile dwelling, it's often decorated, and it's supposed to be joyful, a joyful time. So the book of Ecclesiastes emphasizes futility, but reminds us also that all life is impermanent And spending time in a fragile sukkah that is basically open to the elements also reminds us of life's uncertainties, life's fragility, and the importance of finding joy within the ephemeral time of your living here on earth. So both time spent in the sukkah and the book of Ecclesiastes challenge us to take the good with the bad, to have perspective, to have humility, and to make the most of this one wild and precious life, to quote Mary Oliver. I have many appreciations of Sukkot. Like any Jewish holiday, it's a good opportunity to do family-friendly activities. Sukkot offers something that you and your family or chosen family can do to get away from modern things and really focus on each other and the basics. The minimum requirement for dwelling in a sukkah, now if you're very serious and observant and Orthodox, you might actually live in it for the week. But the minimum requirement is that you eat at least one meal in the sukkah. And the idea of eating meals in the sukkah reminds me of times when there's a power outage and the weather isn't too cold, where it gets a little bit scary. But when there's a power outage and it's warm enough, it's sort of fun for a few days to eat by candlelight, to play board games or card games, and really just spend time together, quality time. And Sukkot's kind of like that. I also love that for a sukkah to be kosher, the roof has to be sparse enough that you can look up through it on a clear night and see the stars. Whenever I look up at the night sky, I feel awe. I feel also humility. And yet I also feel closer to my fellow humans and other living creatures on this planet. Looking up at the night sky reminds us that we're all in this together on this vulnerable, nomadic planet. What is planet Earth if not a temporary dwelling, a temporary fragile dwelling for all of us? And Sukkot's a reminder. Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt, who blogs under the pen name of the Velveteen Rabbi, says that one of the best things about Sukkot is that it's a reminder that permanence is overrated and that our true home is under the stars. I'm sure you remember, and it was brought up today during our candles, the concept of tikkun olam in Judaism, the idea of healing the world, liberating the world as a duty. When you're working for justice and liberation, there are sometimes those big, glorious triumphs, those big victories that you'll always remember, those parting of the Red Seas victories with lots of feelings of triumph. For us in modern times, I remember the glorious moment that same-sex marriage became the law of the land. It happened to fall during a Unitarian Universalist General Assembly, and as you might imagine, there was much rejoicing. But you know what? You wake up the next day, and it's still not really over. You still have to keep fighting. You still have to fight the same fight for the same right you just won. And in these times, we know we're refighting some of those good fights from the past. Sukkot is a reminder, perhaps, that the journey toward liberation and justice isn't just a one-time event, as some have noted. The journey toward justice is a long slog, more like 40 years than a week. Sukkot also reminds us that the best goals in life are often not things that you'll achieve in this lifetime. In the Passover story, only 2 of the adults who were liberated from slavery in Egypt actually make it to the Promised Land. But the next generation makes it. So Sukkot is a reminder that sometimes the best, most worthy goals are ultimately for future generations. And that's a daunting thought, the never-endingness of working for justice. But I think of the wise words of Rabbi Tafron in the Pirkei Avot part of the Talmud. Rabbi Tafron lived about 2,000 years ago, and he wrote, "You are not required to complete the work of justice, but neither are you free to abandon it. You are not required to complete the work of justice, but neither are you free to abandon it. May Sukkot remind us that a temporary shelter, a little lean-to, doesn't really provide that much protection. The closest thing we have to real protection is what we give to each other under the stars. The conclusion of the author of Ecclesiastes is that the best you can do is fear God or be in awe of God and follow the commandments. My translation for myself is that maybe the best we can do is to have awe of nature and the universe, to love each other, to work for justice and healing, to kun olam, come what may. So may there be healing and justice in this country and around the world. May there be peace in Gaza and Israel and all over this beautiful, fragile planet. May all those who are displaced and wandering without a home be loved and cared for and treated like the precious people that they are, and may they find safety in a home soon. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing hymn is another new one out of the virtual hymnal Singing Out Love. It's called Do Not Be Daunted. And so that you're less daunted by a new song, see what we did there? Molly and I came up with that. Before you rise to sing, listen to the choir go through it so that you learn it. It's pretty simple, but it's unfamiliar. So the choir will get us started. For our closing words, if you're comfortable and the person next to you is comfortable, you can hold hands or touch feet or elbows or shoulders or whatever works for you. Or simply hold up your hands and feel the energy between each other and those who are with us online. Take a moment. Try to hold in the feeling of the enormity of the world's grief. Just take a deep breath. You don't have to fix everything. You couldn't fix everything, not in one lifetime. It's just our work to do what we can, to work for justice and healing all of our days, but also to find time for joy and to enjoy time together under the stars. Do justly now. Have mercy now. Be loved together now. Amen, and blessed be. Please be seated. So for those of you who are going to the vestry for fellowship and coffee and refreshments, you might consider stepping outside in the Memorial Garden and taking a look at the Sukkah, and especially a couple of tall helpers to get that on. Thank you.